Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Hey guys, we're your hosts, Em and Jay, and today we're talking about Disney's new movie, Raya and the Last Dragon. The movie premiered on Disney Plus and was released in theaters, although it dropped the same day as the WandaVision finale, one of Disney Plus's most popular shows. And Disney put it behind a $30 paywall, even though Disney Plus is already a paid service. On top of that, they've apparently not been advertising it very much, so in the end, Raya doesn't seem to be doing very well. I don't think Disney did it any favors, which would probably explain its underperformance. The trailers they did release focused a lot on humor, but it came off as a bit obnoxious. But after seeing the movie, we found it more endearing than the trailers let on. Like, we were worried the Khan baby would be annoying, but she turned out to be pretty cute. Not all of the humor landed with us. There are fart jokes, but overall it was enjoyable. And the visuals were gorgeous. The detailing was pretty top notch, like on the clothing and the environments. There was also a 2D style used in flashbacks that I really enjoyed. It was beautiful and dynamic. We did have some issues with the movie though. Given the runtime, I think there was too much going on to really flesh everything out. By the end, we still had a lot of questions that unfortunately never got answered. The film used a lot of modern lingo, which felt a bit off given the setting. For example, the dragon, Sisu, is supposed to be this ancient magical creature. It just comes off as Awkwafina doing her shtick. A lot of people are comparing it to Robin Williams' Genie from Aladdin, which I think makes a lot of sense. But I also think the genie worked better because he was supposed to exist outside of time. Since he's all powerful and all knowing, him doing this comedic shtick makes more sense. Meanwhile, Sisu had no idea she'd been gone for hundreds of years, so her using modern lingo just felt a little out of place. Same with Raya calling herself a nerd. It was all just a bit distracting, at least in our opinion. Also, the message was really heavy-handed, and I also worry it was a bit mishandled. The movie takes place in a fantasy world where humans live together in peace with dragons. Everything's great and the world is very prosperous until these spooky clouds called Druids start turning people into stone. The dragons try to fight the Druids, but they end up turning to stone too, until a dragon named Sisu is the only dragon left. She's able to use a dragon gem to banish the Druids, and all the people are freed from the stone, but the dragons aren't, and Sisu is seemingly destroyed after using the gem, so now it's only humans in the world, and they're struggling without dragons. The world ends up splitting into 5 kingdoms instead of the united world called Kumandra. These 5 nations are Fang, Heart, Spine, Talon, and Tail, all named after parts of a dragon. Most of the kingdoms are struggling, except for Heart, which is actually very prosperous. Heart also happens to be where the dragon gem is being protected, so the other nations think that the dragon gem is making Heart so prosperous, but apparently that's just a coincidence. Raya's father, the chief of Heart, decides that he wants to try to unite the world like it was 500 years ago, before the spooky clouds ruined everything, so he invites the other nations for a meal. It seems like it's going well, and Raya even makes friends with the princess from Fang, Namaari, and they're able to bond in their shared interest of dragons. Namaari even tells her that there's a Fang legend that Sisu survived, and is sleeping at the end of the river, and they speculate where that could be because there's a lot of rivers, but Raya decides to show Namaari the dragon gem, which is a bad idea. You know how Elsa told Anna she can't marry a man she just met? Well, don't trust someone you just met with a very important artifact, cause Namaari stabs her in the back. Well, kicks her in the back, but you know. And she's very proud and smug about it. But the other lands notice that Fang is going for the gem, so they decide to go for the gem too. Probably should have been more sneaky about that, instead of setting off a flare and being very dramatic, getting the entire world's attention in the process, and during all the fighting, the gem breaks, which causes the spooky clouds to come back and turn everybody into stone. Each nation grabs a piece of the gem and makes a break for it. Raya manages to escape, but her father doesn't, which basically leaves her traumatized and unable to trust anyone, which is understandable. She trusted someone and the world broke. So she spends 6 years searching for Sisu, and she's actually able to find her. The rest of the movie is basically a fetch quest, where they go to each land to get a piece of the gem, meet some new friends, and all along the way be chased by Namaari. I like that Disney was trying to do an action movie, but I feel like there was too much content for an hour-and-a-half runtime. These lands are pretty cool and it would have been nice to see more of them, and the side characters were all pretty enjoyable, but they had to share the screen time, so I felt they didn't get to be as fleshed out as they could have been. We did get world building in this movie, which I always love to see, but at the end of it, I was still left with questions that I would have liked to see answered, but we'll have to get into spoilers to talk about them, so consider this a spoiler warning. I had more questions about the Droon that I would have liked answered. Sisu says that they're a plague born from human discord that bring death and destruction, and they wait for a moment of weakness to attack. And that makes me wonder how they got so out of control in the first place. Raya says that before the Droon came, the world was prosperous and people were happy, and they all lived together in peace with the dragons. So what was the discord that made them almost take over the world? To the point where the effects are still being felt 500 years later, and all the dragons were removed from the world. I would think it would take something really big for that to happen, like a war, but nothing like that is ever mentioned. They just tell us one day the Droon showed up and started wreaking havoc and no one could stop them. Another issue we had with the movie was the way the message was handled. The message was about the importance of trust and unity, and that the reason why the world is so broken is because no one trusts anyone. This is a lesson that Raya has to learn throughout the film. She has serious trust issues because of Namaari's betrayal, and the trauma it caused her since she lost her father because of it. Sisu, on the other hand, is the exact opposite problem. She's too trusting of people, and often gets in trouble because of it. She knows that trust has to be earned, so often she goes out of her way to find a gift to give to people in order to gain their trust, but she seems to forget to let them earn her trust, and that ends up getting her in tight spots throughout the film, which Raya has to save her from, and this conflict ends up playing into the climax of the movie. Namaari has the last piece of the dragon gem. Everyone is understandably bitter towards her because of everything that happened, but Sisu wants to trust her, even though she really hasn't done anything to earn that trust. Mostly the opposite, in fact. She has been chasing Raya down this entire time. Despite that, Sisu does convince Raya to give her one last chance, so they ask her for the dragon gem piece back, and at first it looks like everything's going to be okay, but then Namaari pulls a weapon on them, and ends up shooting Sisu, killing her. At this point, Raya's had enough, so she goes and confronts Namaari, but then Namaari shifts the blame to Raya, claiming that she didn't trust her while Sisu did, and basically if she hadn't overreacted about her pulling a weapon on them, Sisu would still be alive. And that's kind of messed up. She doesn't even bother apologizing for everything she's done. She just points the finger at Raya, that she is just as responsible for what happened, but that's just not true. Sisu convinced Raya to forgive Namaari and put all that pain behind her. She trusted her, but then Namaari pulled a weapon on them and had her finger on the trigger. It's pretty understandable that Raya would react the way she did. That was a huge step for Raya, and again, Namaari didn't really do anything to actually earn that trust back, but Raya was taking the high road, and then when confronted with her failure, Namaari just makes excuses. She never apologizes or takes any responsibility for the harm she caused, but then the narrative basically treats her like she's redeemed. Raya realizes that if they all come together and put aside their differences, the dragon gem will get its power back, so they all give their piece to Namaari, and I feel like they were trying to make it so that way since she caused all this trouble, she should be the one to fix it, but she never actually earned this moment, or the trust of the other characters, and that really brought down the film for us. Raya's trauma was valid, and even though she forgave Namaari, that doesn't mean she's obligated to let her back into her life, especially considering the fact that she never really showed any signs of improvement. Hopefully now that the threat has passed and the two of them can start over as friends, Namaari will learn to be a better friend and person, because I really don't think she was there by the end of the movie. But overall, we enjoyed the film. It probably would have worked better as a series than a movie, but they still gave us an interesting world to explore with likable characters, at least mostly likable. But that's just our opinion. What do you guys think? Have you seen Raya and the Last Dragon? What did you think of the movie? Thanks for watching, we really appreciate it. Before we go, we'd like to give a shout out to @artistemily on Twitter for this awesome piece of fan art. It's us as cat girls, and it's really adorable. We love it. So thank you so much for taking the time to make something for us. Shout out to our members: Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, Shiny Orc Boy, Taylor Ramirez, The Rabbit Mancer, Dash Hound, Haley Kosheva, Raythulu, Hunter Rose, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, and Kopitio Bozinski. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have a Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way, or if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.